What if the vast, endless deserts of our world hold secrets far more astonishing than shifting sands and scorching sun? Beneath the surface of these barren landscapes, time has preserved mysteries that defy explanation, whispers of civilizations long forgotten, artifacts that shouldn't exist, and tales so extraordinary they blur the line between myth and reality. Picture this: a lone explorer knee-deep in golden dunes, uncovering a relic that rewrites history. This isn't just fantasy, it's happened time and again, in the most unexpected corners of the desert. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the hidden caves of the Arabian Peninsula, the sands have always been more than a wasteland. They're a vault safeguarding enigmas that challenge everything we think we know. For centuries, the desert has been a silent witness to humanity's greatest triumphs and most baffling disappearances. Its harsh, unforgiving nature has a way of preserving what it swallows: lost cities buried for millennia, strange symbols carved into rocks with no explanation, even whispers of advanced technologies that predate recorded history. Why do these secrets emerge from the desert of all places? Perhaps it's because the very emptiness of these landscapes creates the perfect canvas for the extraordinary. When there's nothing to distract, the anomalies stand out like beacons, calling to those brave enough to seek them, and today we're answering that call. This journey isn't just about dust and ancient stones, it's about the thrill of discovery, the pulse-quickening moment when the past reaches out to shake the present. Over the next 25 revelations, we'll traverse deserts across the globe, unearthing stories that range from the chilling to the awe-inspiring. Imagine standing at the edge of the Rub al-Khali, where legends speak of a lost city of pillars, or deciphering the bizarre geometric patterns in Peru's Nazca desert that can only be seen from the sky. These aren't just puzzles, they're invitations to look beyond the obvious, to question what we've been told. So, are you ready to step into the unknown? The desert has waited long enough to share its secrets. Buried beneath the merciless dunes of Oman's empty quarter lies a mystery that has haunted explorers and scholars for centuries: the fabled city of Iram, known as the Atlantis of the sands. Mentioned in the Quran and woven deep into Bedouin folklore, this legendary metropolis was said to be a place of unimaginable wealth, with towering pillars of gold and a people so arrogant they defied divine warnings. According to ancient texts, the city was wiped from the earth in a single night, swallowed by the desert as punishment for its hubris. But was Iram real, or just a cautionary tale passed down through generations? In the early 1990s, satellite images revealed something startling beneath the sands of southern Arabia: a series of geometric patterns and ruins eerily aligned with descriptions of Iram. Archaeologists rushed to the site, uncovering fragments of walls, pottery, and even evidence of an advanced irrigation system. Could this be the lost city, finally emerging from myth into reality? Skeptics argue the ruins belong to a smaller trading post, but believers point to the uncanny resemblance to the legends: a wealthy settlement suddenly abandoned, its fate as unexplained as its origins. The Ad tribe, said to have built Iram, adds another layer to the enigma. Described as giants who carved their homes into mountains, their civilization allegedly possessed knowledge far beyond its time. Some researchers speculate they mastered techniques to harness water in the desert, creating an oasis of prosperity. Others whisper of darker forces, that the Ad's arrogance invited catastrophe, whether by natural disaster or something more otherworldly. The truth may never be fully uncovered, but the dunes of Oman still whisper their secrets to those who listen. What's certain is this: whether myth or history, Iram's story forces us to question how much of our past remains hidden, waiting beneath the shifting sands. While the Nazca lines of Peru captivate the world with their massive, enigmatic designs, half a globe away in Saudi Arabia's Al-Ula desert, another set of ancient geoglyphs hides in plain sight, equally mysterious but far less understood. Stretching across the barren landscape, enormous stone structures known as desert kites and wheel-shaped formations sprawl over hundreds of miles, some dating back more than 7,000 years. Unlike the famous animal figures of Nazca, these shapes are starkly geometric, long lines converging like massive funnels, circular patterns resembling wagon wheels, and intricate labyrinths that seem to point toward the horizon. Who created them and why? Recent advancements in LiDAR technology have peeled back layers of sand and time, revealing these structures in unprecedented detail. Archaeologists now believe the desert kites, named for their kite-like shape when viewed from above, were sophisticated hunting traps. Ancient builders strategically piled stones into converging walls, sometimes stretching for miles, to funnel herds of gazelles or ibex into enclosed pits where they could be harvested en masse. It's a testament to the ingenuity of nomadic tribes who thrived in this harsh environment, turning the desert itself into a tool for survival. But the wheel-shaped geoglyphs, some measuring over 150 feet across, defy such practical explanations. Their precise alignments with celestial events suggest they may have served as astronomical calendars or sacred sites for rituals lost to time. The parallels to Peru's Nazca lines are impossible to ignore. Both sets of geoglyphs were carved into arid landscapes, visible fully only from the air. Both cultures left no written records to explain their purpose, leaving modern researchers to piece together clues from scattered artifacts and oral traditions. Yet the Saudi formations predate Nazca by thousands of years, raising even more profound questions. Could these structures represent a forgotten network of communication or pilgrimage routes linking ancient civilizations across the Arabian Peninsula? Some researchers speculate that the wheel's spokes align with solstices or star patterns, hinting at a deep understanding of the cosmos long before the rise of formal astronomy. What makes these discoveries even more tantalizing is their sheer scale. Thousands of these formations dot the deserts of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria, many only now being mapped thanks to aerial surveys. Unlike the Nazca lines, which were meticulously preserved by the dry climate, these Middle Eastern geoglyphs have suffered millennia of erosion and nomadic reuse, their original meanings blurred by time. Yet their existence challenges our assumptions about early human societies. These weren't the works of isolated, primitive tribes, but of coordinated communities with shared knowledge and purpose. As drones and satellites continue to uncover hidden patterns beneath the sands, one thing becomes clear. The deserts of Arabia are not just a backdrop to history, but an active participant, preserving echoes of a world we're only beginning to understand. Every line, every stone circle is a silent message from the past, waiting for its code to be cracked. And with each new discovery, the desert whispers again, reminding us that some of humanity's greatest mysteries are still buried just beneath the surface. Deep in the heart of the great sand sea of eastern Libya, the desert floor sparkles with fragments of a mystery that has defied explanation for nearly 30 million years. Libyan desert glass. These golden, translucent shards, scattered across an area larger than some countries, gleam like frozen honey under the relentless sun. But this isn't ordinary glass. It's eerily pure, lacking the bubbles or contaminants typically found in volcanic or man-made glass, and it's strewn across 6,500 square kilometers of barren dunes. How did it get there? The answer might lie in a cataclysm from the skies. Most scientists agree the glass formed under extreme heat temperatures so intense they could melt sand in an instant. The leading theory points to a meteorite impact around 29 million years ago, possibly the same event that created the Kibera crater nearby. When a space rock strikes the Earth at cosmic speeds, the energy released can vaporize silica in the sand, leaving behind these otherworldly shards. But here's the twist: no sizable impact crater has been definitively linked to the glass field. This absence has fueled an alternative theory, an ancient airburst where a comet or asteroid exploded in the atmosphere like the Tunguska event in Siberia, unleashing a fireball hot enough to fuse the desert below into glass without leaving a crater. The mystery deepens when we examine how early humans interacted with this strange material. One of the most famous pieces of Libyan desert glass sits in the center of King Tutankhamun's pectoral scarab, a jeweled breastplate buried with the pharaoh over 3,000 years ago. Ancient Egyptian artisans prized the glass for its otherworldly beauty, carefully polishing it into sacred amulets. How did they acquire it? The nearest deposits lie hundreds of miles west of the Nile, suggesting long-distance trade networks or even forgotten expeditions into the desert's heart. What baffles modern researchers isn't just the glass's origins, but its bizarre purity. Natural glass usually contains traces of water or minerals, but Libyan desert glass is nearly anhydrous, almost as if it was forged in conditions unlike anything we've replicated. Some fringe theories even suggest an ancient, advanced civilization could have created it, though no evidence supports this. More plausible but equally fascinating is the idea that the airburst hypothesis might rewrite our understanding of cosmic threats. If a relatively small object could carpet an entire desert in glass without a crater, what might a larger explosion do today? The sands of Libya guard this secret tightly. Every expedition that retrieves a piece of the glass brings back not just a scientific specimen, but a fragment of a story that spans from the birth of our planet to the hands of a boy king. Whether forged by a meteor's fury or a comet's fire, the desert glass remains a shimmering enigma, one that reminds us how much of Earth's history is still written in stones we've yet to fully decipher. High in the stark cliffs of the Judean desert, where the air hums with dry heat and the rocks bake under an unrelenting sun, lies one of history's most tantalizing secrets, the caves of Qumran. This rugged landscape, seemingly inhospitable, became the unlikely guardian of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a treasure trove of ancient texts hidden for 2,000 years. But just when scholars thought they'd uncovered every last fragment, new caves emerged, their shadows whispering of scrolls still waiting to be found. The story begins with the Bedouin, the desert's original explorers, whose intimate knowledge of the land led to the first discoveries in the late 1940s. A young shepherd tossing stones into a cave to chase out a stray goat heard the shattering of pottery, and with it the sound of history breaking open. Inside those jars lay the earliest fragments, preserving biblical texts older than any previously known. But the Bedouin weren't just lucky. They understood the desert's rhythms, its hidden alcoves and seasonal shifts that made certain caves accessible only at precise times. Their finds ignited a feverish archaeological race, with scholars and treasure hunters alike scouring the cliffs for more. Then came the Copper Scroll, a mystery wrapped in metal. Unlike the other scrolls written on parchment, this one was etched onto thin sheets of copper, and its message was unlike anything scholars had seen. It wasn't a religious text but a treasure map, listing 64 locations where unimaginable riches were supposedly buried: gold, silver, even priestly robes. The descriptions were precise, yet maddeningly cryptic. In the ruin that is in the valley of Achor, dig 40 cubits beneath the large stone, one passage reads. But no one has ever found these treasures despite decades of searching. Was the scroll a literal guide or a symbolic record? Some theorize the treasure was looted long ago. Others believe it's still out there, hidden beneath the very sands that preserved the scroll itself. The discovery of new caves in 2016 and 2017 reignited the hunt. Archaeologists, armed with drones and thermal imaging, found cavities in the limestone that bore telltale signs of human activity: tool marks, storage niches, even scraps of parchment. Yet many were empty, their contents perhaps looted centuries ago or disintegrated by time. This raises a chilling possibility. What if the most important texts are still undiscovered, tucked away in caves so remote or well hidden that even the Bedouin haven't found them? Modern expeditions now blend cutting-edge technology with old-fashioned intuition. Teams rappel down sheer cliffs, sift through dust for DNA traces, and scan the terrain with multispectral imaging, hoping to catch a glint of parchment or the shadow of a lost chamber. Meanwhile, the Judean desert's harsh conditions, scorching by day, freezing by night, act as both preserver and destroyer, safeguarding relics while making their recovery a race against decay. What makes these scrolls more than just ancient artifacts is their power to reshape history. They contain alternate versions of biblical stories, lost psalms, and community rules from a Jewish sect that lived in isolation, waiting for an apocalyptic battle. Every fragment is a puzzle piece, hinting at beliefs and conflicts that shape the modern world. And with each new cave uncovered, the desert teases us with the promise of more. Who knows what still lies buried in those cliffs, waiting for the right moment and the right explorer to bring it into the light? For centuries, Ubar existed only in whispers, a city of towering wealth and unimaginable luxury, lost somewhere beneath the sands of southern Oman. Ancient texts called it the City of Pillars, a crucial hub on the frankincense trade routes where caravans laden with fragrant resin crisscrossed the desert, fueling economies from Arabia to Rome. Then, according to legend, it vanished. Some said the earth swallowed Ubar whole as punishment for its people's greed, leaving behind only stories of a paradise-turned tomb. For generations, historians dismissed it as pure myth until the desert gave up one of its most guarded secrets. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source: eyes in the sky. In the 1980s, NASA Landsat satellites captured infrared images of ancient caravan tracks converging in Oman's Rub al Khali desert. These ghostly trails, invisible to the naked eye, led researchers to a site near the modern village of Shissa. Ground excavations revealed massive fortress walls, towers, and even the remnants of a grand well, all buried beneath layers of sand. The evidence pointed to a bustling oasis, perfectly positioned along the incense routes that once moved fortunes in aromatic resin. This wasn't just any settlement, it was Ubar, risen from legend into reality. But how did such a powerful city fall? The answer might lie beneath its very foundations. Archaeologists found signs of a colossal sinkhole, a sudden collapse of the limestone caverns that supported Ubar's structures. This geological betrayal would have been catastrophic, swallowing buildings and Chinese letter in moments. To witnesses, it would have seemed like divine retribution, a dramatic end fit for a city of excess. The irony is haunting. Ubar's wealth came from frankincense, harvested from the hardy boswellia trees that thrived in the region's harsh conditions. Yet the same earth that gifted them prosperity ultimately claimed their city without warning. The discovery didn't just validate ancient tales, it rewrote our understanding of the frankincense trade scale. Ubar wasn't a lone outpost, but the heartbeat of a network stretching from Oman's coast to the Mediterranean. Caravans braved scorching days and freezing nights, their camels carrying resin so precious it rivaled gold. Roman emperors burned it in temples, Egyptian priests used it in mummification, and the Queen of Sheba allegedly gifted it to King Solomon. The sheer demand forged alliances and wars, with Ubar at the center. Its collapse didn't just doom a city, it sent shockwaves through the ancient economy. Today, Ubar's ruins stand as a silent rebuttal to those who dismiss legends as mere fiction. The desert, it seems, keeps receipts proof that even the grandest civilizations are at the mercy of nature's whims. As the satellite images showed, the past isn't always buried. Sometimes it's written in the very paths we've forgotten, waiting for the right technology or the right moment to bring it back into the light. Scattered across the deserts of northwest Saudi Arabia, colossal stone structures stretch for hundreds of meters, their purpose lost to time. These rectangular monuments, called mustatils, Arabic for rectangles, have baffled archaeologists since their rediscovery in the 1970s. Built roughly 7,000 years ago, they predate Egypt's pyramids by millennia, yet their sheer scale suggests a level of social organization nobody expected from Neolithic Arabia. Local Bedouin, spooked by their eerie presence, dubbed them Djinn Blocks, believing only supernatural beings could have stacked such massive stones in this barren landscape. But the truth behind these enigmatic formations is even more fascinating than folklore. Excavations reveal that mustatils weren't solitary projects but communal efforts, with some featuring intricate gateways, courtyards, and even chambers lined with animal bones, particularly cattle and ibex. The bones, often arranged in ritualistic patterns, point to ceremonies tied to survival in an increasingly hostile world. Around the time these structures rose, the Arabian Peninsula was undergoing drastic climate shifts. Lush grasslands were giving way to desert, forcing early pastoralists to adapt or perish. Researchers now theorize the mustatils served as gathering sites for distant tribes, where shared sacrifices and feasts strengthened alliances during a time of ecological crisis. Imagine hundreds of people converging at these open-air temples, exchanging livestock, knowledge, and perhaps prayers for rain beneath a merciless sky. What makes these structures extraordinary isn't just their age but their uniformity. Despite spanning an area larger than Austria, the mustatils share uncanny similarities in design. Tall headwalls mark their narrow ends, while low corridors connect to central platforms lay out so precise they hint at a shared cultural blueprint across vast distances. Some align with celestial events like the rising of certain stars, suggesting the builders wove astronomy into their rituals. Even more intriguing are the carved rock art panels found nearby, depicting scenes of hunting and herding alongside symbols still undeciphered. Were these monuments part of a grand cosmological belief system, or pragmatic solutions to a drying world? The mustatils challenge everything we thought we knew about early Arabian societies. These weren't scattered nomads but interconnected communities capable of large-scale coordination, their legacy etched in stone long before the pharaohs ruled. Yet the Djinn Blocks guard their secrets tightly. Why did the construction suddenly stop? Did the climate grow too harsh, or did beliefs shift? Every excavation peels back another layer, revealing how deeply humans have always grappled with change and how the desert, in its stark silence, holds the echoes of our oldest struggles. Hidden beneath the rose-red cliffs of Petra lies one of the ancient world's greatest engineering marvels, not just towering temples carved into stone, but an intricate web of water channels, cisterns, and dams so advanced it turned a desert into an oasis. The Nabateans, a nomadic tribe who settled here around the 4th century BCE, didn't just survive in this arid landscape. They thrived, building a bustling city in a place where rainfall was scarcer than gold. Their secret, a hydraulic system so precise it could capture every precious drop of water that fell, store it for months, and distribute it flawlessly to tens of thousands of people. Even today, engineers marvel at how they achieved what modern technology struggles to replicate in similar environments. The genius of Petra's water network lies in its simplicity and scale. Across the city's sandstone hills, the Nabateans carved over 200 cisterns, some large enough to hold millions of gallons. They lined these reservoirs with a special waterproof plaster made from lime and crushed ceramics, a mixture so effective it's still intact in many places after 2,000 years. But storage was only half the battle. To feed these cisterns, they engineered a series of dams and diversion channels that funneled seasonal flash floods, violent torrents that could vanish in hours, into their storage systems. One dam, the Sick Barrier, stands as a testament to their foresight. Built directly in the path of a narrow canyon, it redirected floodwaters away from Petra's main entrance while feeding a network of underground pipes that ran like veins beneath the city. What's even more astonishing is how they managed water pressure without modern pumps. Gravity did all the work. By carefully calculating slopes and pipe diameters, the Nabateans created a steady flow that reached every tier of their terraced city, from the grandest temples to the humblest homes. They even installed sedimentation tanks to filter out silt, ensuring clean drinking water, a luxury many ancient civilizations lacked. Their mastery extended beyond Petra. Satellite imagery reveals similar systems in their desert outposts, suggesting a standardized hydrology empire-wide. Yet for all their ingenuity, the Nabateans' decline was as dramatic as their rise. By the 2nd century CE, Petra's glory began to fade. Some blame the Roman annexation in 106 CE, which disrupted their monopoly on frankincense and spice routes. Others point to climate shifts or a devastating earthquake in 363 CE that crippled their water infrastructure. But the most haunting theory suggests they were victims of their own success. As Petra grew, so did its water demands. Over time, the very systems that sustained them may have strained the environment beyond recovery, a cautionary tale for modern cities in water-scarce regions. Today, researchers are rediscovering Nabatean techniques to combat desertification. In Jordan's Wadi Musa region, engineers have revived ancient cisterns to alleviate water shortages, proving these 2,000-year-old solutions still hold value. The Nabateans understood something we're only now relearning. In the desert, water isn't just a resource, it's a covenant between humanity and the land. Every channel they carved, every drop they saved, whispers across centuries, reminding us that survival in the harshest places isn't about conquering nature, but collaborating with it. One of the most surreal sights on Earth lies deep in Egypt's western desert, a wasteland of golden sand and jagged rock where the skeletons of whales lie bleaching under the sun. Welcome to Wadi al-Hittan, the Valley of Whales, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that feels like a fever dream. Here, hundreds of fossilized marine creatures, some as long as 65 feet, rest eternally in what was once an ancient ocean. How did these giants of the deep end up stranded in one of the driest places on the planet? The answer lies in a planetary dance of tectonic plates, climate shifts, and evolutionary secrets buried for 40 million years. The story begins during the Eocene epoch, when this patch of Egypt wasn't desert at all but a shallow, warm sea teeming with life. Primitive whales like Basilosaurus, a serpentine predator with dagger-like teeth, ruled these waters alongside giant sharks and early manatees. But as Africa's continental plate slowly collided with Eurasia, the sea began to retreat. The land buckled, rose, and eventually drained the water away, leaving behind a graveyard of marine life preserved in stunning detail. What makes Wadi al-Hittan extraordinary isn't just the fossils themselves, but their condition. Many skeletons are fully articulated, as if the whales simply laid down to sleep and never woke up. Some even retain stomach contents, fish bones, and shells that reveal their last meals. These fossils aren't just relics, they're missing pages from the story of whale evolution. Before Wadi al-Hittan's discovery, scientists struggled to explain how whales transitioned from land mammals to ocean dwellers. The valley's specimens bridge that gap. Take Dorudon, a smaller whale found here. Its tiny hind limbs, useless for swimming, are clear vestiges of its four-legged ancestors. Nearby, fossilized mangrove roots and mangrove-dwelling crabs paint a picture of a coastal environment where early whales hunted in shallow waters, adapting limb by limb over millions of years. But the real marvel is how the desert preserved this evolutionary snapshot. The same arid conditions that make Egypt's sands inhospitable today created a perfect fossilization lab. With little vegetation or rain to erode the rocks, the bones remained undisturbed, their secrets locked in stone until the early 20th century, when a dust storm exposed them to the world. Now every fossil tells a dual tale of life in an ancient ocean and the relentless geological forces that turned it into a desert. Visiting Wadi al-Hittan feels like stepping onto another planet. Wind-carved cliffs loom over the fossils, their layers of sediment a timeline written in stone. In one spot, you can place your hand on a whale's vertebrae while staring at a horizon devoid of water for hundreds of miles. It's a visceral reminder that the Earth's face is always changing, that oceans can become deserts, and that even the mightiest creatures are no match for the slow, unstoppable march of time. These fossilized whales don't just belong to Egypt, they belong to the planet, whispering a story as much about our future as our past. What landscapes will we leave behind, and what secrets will they hold for the explorers of tomorrow? In the shadow of Egypt's more famous pyramids at Dahshur, a team of archaeologists recently uncovered a structure that rewrites our understanding of a forgotten era, a 3,800-year-old pyramid, its stones still bearing the scars of ancient thieves. This isn't just another tomb, it's a time capsule from the Second Intermediate Period, a chaotic chapter when Egypt fractured into rival kingdoms and foreign rulers known as the Hyksos seized power. The pyramid's grandeur suggests it belonged to a pharaoh, but here's the mystery. His name has been meticulously erased from history. Who was he, and why was his memory so violently condemned? The clues lie in the ruins. Though looters stripped the burial chamber of treasures long ago, they left behind fragments of a story. Scattered pottery shards inscribed with hieroglyphs hint at a ruler who reigned during the 13th dynasty, a time when Egypt's central authority crumbled. Nearby, archaeologists found broken statues, their faces deliberately smashed, a telltale sign of damnatio memoriae, the ancient practice of erasing a person's legacy. Was this pharaoh a failed rebel or a puppet king deposed by rivals? The pyramid's location offers another clue. Built near the necropolis of Sneferu, founder of the 4th dynasty, it seems the unnamed king sought to tie himself to Egypt's golden age, a desperate bid for legitimacy in a crumbling world. The looting itself tells a darker tale. Unlike typical grave robbers who tunneled in discreetly, these intruders tore through the pyramid's core with brutal efficiency, as if driven by more than greed. Historical records from the period describe temples ransacked and monuments defaced during the Hyksos invasion. Could this tomb's violation have been part of a larger campaign to dismantle Egypt's old order? One artifact adds weight to this theory, a single ceremonial dagger of Hyksos design left behind in the rubble. Was it dropped in haste or planted as a defiant message? What makes this discovery so compelling isn't just the mystery of the pharaoh's identity, but what it reveals about an era of chaos and reinvention. The Second Intermediate Period was more than a gap between kingdoms. It was a crucible where Egypt's identity was tested. The unnamed pharaoh's pyramid, with its shattered legacy, forces us to confront how easily history can be rewritten or erased, and as the sands of Dahshur slowly yield their secrets, we're reminded that even the mightiest rulers are at the mercy of time's relentless tide. Stretching across northern Jordan like a frozen sea of ink, the Black Desert earns its name from endless fields of volcanic basalt, jagged boulders that seem to swallow the sunlight. But look closer, and these dark stones reveal an astonishing secret. Thousands of intricate carvings etched over 2 millennia ago. Some show sleek cheetahs mid-hunt, their graceful forms captured in motion. Others depict chariots with spoked wheels racing across the rock as if frozen in time. The most baffling ones, geometric grids and looping patterns that resemble constellations. These petroglyphs aren't random scratches, they're a window into a lost world, one where the desert wasn't always so barren. Archaeologists first documented these carvings in the 1920s, but their true significance only emerged decades later. The cheetahs, now extinct in Jordan, suggest a landscape once rich in grasslands and prey. Chariots hint at trade routes or military campaigns crossing what's now an inhospitable wasteland. But the abstract designs fuel the fiercest debates. Some researchers see tribal symbols, markers of territory or spiritual sites for nomadic tribes like the Nabateans. Others argue they're celestial maps, aligning with star patterns to guide travelers or mark seasonal changes. One particularly compelling theory points to a series of interconnected dots and lines that mirror the Pleiades cluster, a celestial marker used by ancient cultures from Arabia to the Americas. The Black Desert's climate holds another clue. Geological studies reveal this region was savanna like 2,000 years ago, with seasonal rivers and acacia groves supporting both wildlife and human settlements. The petroglyphs might document this lost ecosystem, a visual archive of species and activities that vanished as the land dried. Yet the carving's precision raises questions. Unlike crude rock art found elsewhere, many here show remarkable anatomical accuracy, like the cheetah's whiskers or a chariot's reins. Were they the work of skilled artisans passing through, or did a settled community thrive here, their stories written in stone before the desert claimed everything? Local Bedouin tribes whisper older legends. They call the area Harat al-Sham, the stone desert. And some elders speak of ancestors who believed the carvings were messages from jinn spirits that roamed the land before humans. Modern technology adds another layer to the mystery. Drone surveys recently uncovered previously hidden petroglyphs on boulder faces tilted skyward, almost as if meant to be seen from above. Could they have served as signals or landmarks for aerial observers? The idea seems fantastical until you consider that the Nabateans, masters of desert survival, built Petra's water systems with engineering that still astounds us today. Standing among these silent stones, it's impossible not to feel the weight of time pressing down. The cheetahs now exist only in carvings, the chariots rumble long silenced. But the desert keeps their memory alive, etched into rock as a testament to a world that once was and a puzzle that challenges us to piece together how it all changed. Every line, every curve is a question waiting for an answer, and as the wind scours the basalt clean, the whispers of the past grow louder, urging us to listen. Deep in the arid hills outside Amman, Jordan, a small cave cut into the limestone has drawn pilgrims and scholars for centuries. Known as the Cave of the Seven Sleepers, this humble site is tied to one of history's most enduring cross-cultural legends, a story so universal it appears in the Quran, Christian traditions, and even ancient Greek texts. The tale describes 7 youths fleeing religious persecution, who take refuge in a cave only to fall into a miraculous slumber that lasts centuries. When they awaken, the world has changed beyond recognition, their faith preserved like a time capsule in the desert's embrace. The earliest written version comes from 6th century Syria, where bishops recorded the story as proof of resurrection. But the legend truly blossomed under Islam, where Surah al-Kahf in the Quran elaborates on the sleeper's fate, adding a faithful dog that guards the cave's entrance. What fascinates scholars isn't just the narrative's endurance but its geographical ambiguity. 2 primary sites vie for authenticity: Ephesus in Turkey, where a Roman-era catacomb bears early Christian inscriptions, and Jordan's Al-Rajab cave, where Umayyad-era coins and niches suggest medieval Muslim veneration. The Jordanian site's desert setting feels more symbolically potent, a stark backdrop for a story about endurance and divine protection in the harshest conditions. Local traditions in Jordan add layers to the myth. Bedouin guides point to fissures in the cave's ceiling, said to be cracks formed when the sleepers turned in their centuries-long rest. Nearby, Ottoman-era graves cluster around the site, as if later generations hoped to bask in the cave's spiritual resonance. The interplay between faiths here is striking. Christian pilgrims once lit oil lamps at the cave's entrance, while Muslim rulers later built a mosque adjacent to it, a rare shared shrine in a region often divided by doctrine. This duality reflects the story's core message, that devotion transcends time and dogma. Modern archaeology complicates the romance. Excavations in both Jordan and Turkey reveal these caves were indeed used as refuge shelters during periods of persecution, but no evidence confirms the miraculous sleep. Yet the lack of physical proof hardly diminishes the legend's power. Like the desert itself, the story adapts to those who encounter it. For early Christians, it was a parable of resurrection. For Muslims, a testament to Allah's ability to suspend natural law. Today, it serves as a reminder of how myths can bind cultures together, their roots sunk deep in the shared soil of human longing for protection and meaning. Standing at the mouth of the Al-Rajab cave with the Jordanian sun bleaching the stones white, it's easy to understand why this spot feels sacred. The desert has a way of distilling stories to their essence, stripping away dogma until only the marrow of belief remains. Whether seen as history or allegory, the sleeper's tale endures because it speaks to something primal, the hope that faith, like those ancient youths, can outlast even the cruelest tides of time. The Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, stretches across the Arabian Peninsula like a vast, lifeless ocean of sand, its dunes towering as high as skyscrapers. But buried beneath this sea of golden silence lies a forgotten world of lush oases, where rivers once flowed and ancient caravans paused to drink. Satellite radar has recently peeled back the desert's veil, revealing ghostly traces of these lost waterways, their outlines etched into the earth like scars. These weren't just watering holes, they were lifelines for civilizations, connecting Sumerian traders to the riches of the Indus Valley and beyond. How could such verdant hubs vanish without a trace? The answer lies in a climate catastrophe that unfolded over millennia. Around 5,000 years ago, the Arabian Peninsula began its slow transformation from grassland to desert, a shift triggered by changes in Earth's orbit that weakened monsoon rains. As the water retreated, so did the oases. Wells dried up, rivers evaporated, and the sand crept in like a patient conqueror, but the memory of these places lingered. Sumerian tablets speak of a land called Dilmun, a paradise of fresh springs and date palms, likely one of these very oases. Even T.E. Lawrence, the famed Lawrence of Arabia, became obsessed with finding what he called the Atlantis of the sands, convinced it hid somewhere in the empty quarter's unmapped wastes. His expeditions failed, but modern technology has succeeded where he could not. NASA satellite surveys, equipped with ground-penetrating radar, have uncovered a network of ancient riverbeds, paleochannels crisscrossing beneath the dunes. These long-buried waterways explain how thriving settlements could exist in what's now one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. One such channel, the Wadi al-Batin, once stretched over 600 miles, feeding oases that supported trade routes carrying frankincense, copper, and lapis lazuli. Artifacts found along these phantom rivers include pottery shards from Mesopotamia and tools crafted from Amani stone, proof of a connected world that vanished beneath the sands. The most tantalizing discovery is the remnants of an oasis near modern-day Dawadmi, where radar images show a circular depression lined with stone structures. Local Bedouin call it Al-Humaida, a name echoing oral traditions of a green place lost to the wind. Excavations there revealed something astonishing: the foundations of a caravanserai, complete with animal pens and a well lined with bitumen to prevent leaks. This wasn't just a stopover, it was a sophisticated way station, a node in a trade network that collapsed when the water disappeared. Today, the same satellite tech that found these ruins is helping scientists understand how quickly climate change can rewrite human history and what that might mean for our future. Standing in the empty quarter now, it's hard to imagine camels wading through reeds or merchants bartering under palm fronds, yet the desert remembers. Every radar ping that reveals another buried river is a whisper from the past, a reminder that even the harshest landscapes were once hospitable. The Rub al-Khali's lost oases teach us a stark lesson: civilizations rise and fall with the water they depend on. And when the last spring dries up, even the mightiest trade routes fade into legend, leaving only echoes beneath the dunes. Towering above the granite quarries of Aswan lies a monument that never was an obelisk so massive it could have dwarfed all others in ancient Egypt. Known as the unfinished obelisk, this colossal slab of red granite stretches 137 feet long and weighs an estimated 1,200 tons. But it never stood upright, never gleamed in the sun, never bore the inscriptions of a pharaoh's glory. Instead, it remains trapped in the bedrock, a frozen moment of ambition and failure. The cracks that doomed this project tell a story even more fascinating than the obelisk itself, a tale of engineering prowess, royal intrigue, and perhaps even a curse. Archaeologists studying the site can practically hear the chisels ringing through time. The obelisk was carved directly from the living rock, a technique requiring astonishing precision. Teams of workers would have pounded away with dolerite stones harder than granite, following carefully marked lines to create the obelisk's signature taper. What's mind-boggling is how they planned to transport it. Unlike smaller obelisks hauled on sledges, this behemoth would have required an ingenious system of levers, barges, and possibly even artificial canals. But the work stopped abruptly when 3 devastating fissures appeared near the base, rendering the stone useless. Was it poor planning or something more ominous? The timing offers a clue. Most scholars tie the obelisk to Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most ambitious builders. Known for commissioning towering monuments to cement her power, she might have ordered this as a centerpiece for Karnak Temple. But Hatshepsut's reign was fraught with challenges, opposition from traditionalists who resisted a female pharaoh, and whispers of divine displeasure. The abandoned obelisk could have been seen as a bad omen, a sign the gods rejected her rule. Centuries later, locals still spoke of a curse clinging to the stone, blaming its flaws on supernatural intervention. Modern engineers, however, see a different lesson. The cracks reveal where the ancient stonemasons pushed the limits of their craft. Stress fractures suggest they misjudged the bedrock's grain, or perhaps worked too hastily as the pharaoh demanded progress. Today, geologists study the obelisk's flaws to understand how granite behaves under stress, knowledge that even influences modern construction. The unfinished obelisk isn't just a failure, it's a masterclass in the risks of ambition. And as the sun sets over Aswan, casting long shadows across its scarred surface, the lesson lingers. Even the mightiest dreams can shatter against the unyielding reality of stone. In the vast emptiness of Romania's Buzău Desert, a strange object emerged in the 1930s, a metallic wedge buried deep in ancient sandstone, its surface eerily smooth, its shape too precise to be natural. Dubbed the alien wedge, it sparked frenzied speculation. Was this proof of extraterrestrial visitors in Earth's distant past? The artifact's location only fueled the mystery. Deserts, with their stark isolation and otherworldly landscapes, have long been magnets for conspiracy theories, their silence seeming to whisper secrets just beyond human understanding. But the truth behind the alien wedge reveals something far more fascinating than little green men. It exposes how easily the desert's harsh beauty can twist perception into myth. When researchers finally analyzed the wedge decades later, the results were disappointingly terrestrial. The metal wasn't some advanced alloy but a simple tool, likely a broken part from a World War II aircraft or mining equipment. The ancient sandstone, it was embedded in a quirk of geology that had hardened around the object in mere decades, not millennia. Yet the legend persisted, clung to by those who wanted to believe. This pattern isn't unique. From the American Southwest's alleged UFO crash sites to Sahara caves rumored to hold alien hieroglyphs, deserts invite speculation precisely because they feel like places where normal rules don't apply. Their vastness plays tricks on the mind, turning rusted machinery into relics of lost civilizations and wind-carved rocks into monuments of unknown origin. Psychologists call this phenomenon apophenia, the human tendency to find meaningful patterns where none exist. In the desert, where isolation heightens the senses and the landscape itself seems alive, it's easy to see intention in random formations or ascribe supernatural origins to mundane objects. The alien wedge hoax also taps into a deeper truth. Deserts are Earth's natural archives, preserving everything from dinosaur bones to ancient tools with equal indifference. When we stumble upon something out of place there, our brains race to fill the gaps, often with fantastical explanations. But the real lesson here isn't about debunking myths, it's about understanding why they take root. Deserts aren't just physical spaces, they're psychological canvases where humanity projects its deepest curiosities and fears. The alien wedge, though exposed as a fraud, still serves a purpose. It reminds us that the most compelling mysteries aren't always about what's hidden in the sand, but what's hidden in ourselves, the endless drive to find magic in the unknown, even when the truth is lying plainly in the light. Off the coast of Namibia, where the Namib Desert meets the Atlantic Ocean, lies one of Earth's most haunting landscapes, the Skeleton Coast. This desolate stretch earned its name not just from the bones of whales and seals scattered along its shores, but from the eerie remains of ships jutting from the sand like the skeletons of long-dead beasts. These are the ghost ships of the Namib, vessels swallowed by the desert after being stranded by the relentless Bengla current. Imagine a foggy dawn, the air thick with salt spray, as you stumble upon the rusted hull of the Eduard Bolen, a steamer that ran aground in 1909. Its crumbling frame now sits a quarter-mile inland, swallowed by dunes that crept up like silent invaders. How did these ships end up so far from the water? The answer lies in a deadly partnership between ocean and desert. The Bengla Current, a cold, powerful stream flowing north along Africa's west coast, creates treacherous conditions. Thick fogs roll in without warning, obscuring landmarks, while hidden sandbanks shift with the tides. Sailors who misjudged their course found themselves helplessly beached, their ships pounded by waves until the hulls cracked open. But the real nightmare began once the tide receded. The desert, always hungry, claimed the wrecks. Wind-blown sand buried them grain by grain, while the dry air preserved the bones of those who didn't escape. Some wrecks, like the Dunedin Star, became the backdrop for harrowing survival tales. In 1942, this British liner stranded with 63 passengers, including women and children. Rescue attempts took weeks, with planes crashing and rescuers themselves becoming stranded. By the time help arrived, survivors were drinking seal blood to stave off thirst. Yet these ship graveyards also hid fortunes. In the early 20th century, diamonds were discovered in the coastal sands, and prospectors risked the Skeleton Coast's dangers to reach them. The wreck of the Otavi, a cargo ship lost in 1945, became a makeshift landmark for diamond hunters, its carcass a grim reminder of the price of greed. Even today, explorers comb the area not for gems but for stories. The most haunting of these relics might be the Suidicus, a fishing trawler lost in 1976. Its crew vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a ghostly hull half buried in the dunes. Scientists now study these wrecks for clues to coastal erosion, watching as the desert slowly grinds metal into rust and wood into dust. Standing before these skeletal ships, you can almost hear the echoes of the past, the creak of timbers, the shouts of sailors fighting the inevitable. The Skeleton Coast doesn't give up its dead easily, but in the silence between the wind and waves there's a lesson. Nature always wins. The ocean delivers the ships and the desert takes them, a cycle as old as time itself. And somewhere in that endless exchange between sea and sand, the ghosts of the Namib still whisper. The Sahara today may stretch as an endless sea of dunes, but 10,000 years ago, it was a landscape of shimmering lakes and rolling grasslands, a paradise teeming with life. Hidden beneath its blowing sands are the remnants of vast bodies of water, some rivaling the Caspian Sea in size. The most astonishing of these was Lake Mega Chad, a freshwater giant that once covered over 150,000 square miles, nearly the size of modern-day Germany. Satellite images and sediment cores reveal its ghostly outline, a sprawling basin where today only the shrinking Lake Chad remains, a puddle compared to its ancient ancestor. This was the Green Sahara, a lush epoch known as the African Humid Period, when monsoon rains transformed the desert into a savanna dotted with lakes and rivers. Evidence of this lost world isn't just buried in geology, it's painted on stone. In the Tassili Ennaja Plateau of Algeria, Neolithic artists left breathtaking murals of hippos wallowing in water, elephants grazing on reeds, and giraffes swimming. These images, etched between 9,000 and 4,000 years ago, are more than art. They're ecological snapshots of a Sahara unrecognizable today. The so-called swimming giraffe panel is particularly striking, depicting long-necked animals chest deep in water, their legs distorted as if mid-stroke. How could creatures adapted to open woodlands thrive in what's now one of the driest places on Earth? Archaeologists studying these rock shelters have found more than just animal portraits. Scenes of humans fishing with nets, herding cattle, and even boating prove this was no temporary oasis but a sustained homeland. The Wadi Sara caves in Libya show children's handprints alongside depictions of crocodiles, further proving water was abundant. Yet around 5,000 years ago, the rains faltered. As Earth's orbital tilt shifted, monsoons weakened and the lakes began to evaporate. The once fertile grasslands baked into desert, forcing populations to cluster around the Nile, Niger, and other surviving waterways. This wasn't a slow change. Some studies suggest the transition from green to gold happened within centuries, a blink in geological time. The exodus triggered by this drying reshaped civilizations. The descendants of Sahara's cattle herders likely became the early pharaohs of Egypt or the pastoralists of the Sahel. Their rock art, now stranded in barren cliffs, stands as a monument to adaptability. But the most haunting question remains: could the Green Sahara return? Climate models suggest that under certain warming scenarios, monsoon patterns might shift again, reviving pockets of the old savanna. Until then, the Sahara's prehistoric lakes linger in memory and stone, reminding us that even the mightiest deserts were once something else entirely, and might be again. Standing in the shadow of Egypt's Mount Sinai, an ancient monastery claims to guard one of the Bible's most iconic miracles, the very spot where Moses encountered the burning bush. St. Catherine's Monastery, a fortress of faith nestled in the rugged Sinai Peninsula, has drawn pilgrims for over 17 centuries, all seeking to stand before a gnarled, centuries-old bush said to be the descendant of that divine flame. The site's pedigree is impressive. Emperor Justinian ordered the monastery built around the bush in the 6th century, and tradition holds that the original roots still thrive in its chapel garden. Yet for all its reverence, this isn't the only contender. Across the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia's Jabal al-Lawz, a rival site ignites controversy, a stark mountain where charred-looking stones and ancient inscriptions fuel theories that the true burning bush lay not in Egypt but in the land of Midian. Why do these legends cling so fiercely to the desert? Part of the answer lies in the landscape itself. Deserts, with their stark isolation and extremes, have long been canvases for the sacred. The very scarcity of life makes every anomaly: a bush that burns but isn't consumed, a mountain peak shrouded in smoke, feel like a rupture in the ordinary. St. Catherine's location amplifies this mystique. Surrounded by jagged peaks and silence so profound it's almost audible, the monastery feels suspended between earth and heaven. The bush itself, a rare species of bramble called Rubus sanctus, is tended by monks who call it the unburnt. Scientific explanations: volcanic gases, rare plant chemistry, do little to dim the devotion of those who witness its gnarled branches. Jabal al-Lawz, meanwhile, offers a different kind of evidence. Explorers point to blackened rock formations, suggesting a past inferno, and petroglyphs of bulls and calves that some link to the biblical golden calf incident. Local Bedouin legends speak of a mountain of light, and satellite images reveal ancient altars at its base. Critics argue these features could stem from natural fires or pre-Islamic rituals, but the debate underscores a deeper truth. Deserts preserve stories as stubbornly as they preserve artifacts. In the absence of competing landmarks, every rock and bush becomes a potential testament to the divine. The enduring power of these sites isn't just about geography, it's about the human need to anchor faith in place. Deserts, with their timeless quality, feel like places where the sacred might still linger, untouched by modernity. Whether at St. Catherine's or Jabal al-Lawz, pilgrims and explorers alike chase more than history. They seek a tangible connection to the ineffable. And in the end, perhaps the real miracle isn't the bush's location, but the way these barren landscapes continue to kindle wonder across millennia. Some of the world's deserts hold an eerie secret, dunes that sing. From the vast emptiness of Kazakhstan's Altyn-Imel National Park to the rolling sands of the Sahara, certain slopes produce deep, resonant hums that vibrate through the air like the drone of a distant airplane. The Boom Dune in Kazakhstan is perhaps the most famous, capable of generating a sound so loud it can be heard for miles, a low-frequency rumble that echoes like thunder trapped beneath the earth. For centuries, Bedouin travelers attributed these noises to the voices of jinn, unseen spirits said to dwell in the desolate wastes. But the truth behind these musical sands is a stunning interplay of physics and geology, where grains of sand become instruments in nature's orchestra. The phenomenon occurs when dry, uniform sand grains slide down a steep dune face in perfect synchronization. As they cascade, the grains rub against each other, creating vibrations that amplify through the loose, resonant layer beneath. Scientists call this singing sand, and it only happens under precise conditions. The grains must be round, well sorted, and between 1 and 500 microns in size, roughly the texture of fine sugar. Humidity plays a crucial role too. Even a whisper of moisture in the air can silence the dunes as damp grains stick together rather than flowing freely. This explains why the sounds are most common in arid, wind-sculpted deserts where the sand has been polished by endless collisions over millennia. Laboratory experiments have recreated the effect by tumbling dry sand in enclosed chambers, proving it's not supernatural, but that doesn't make it any less mesmerizing. The tone of each dune varies depending on its size and the sand's composition. Some produce eerie, melodic hums, while others generate deep, seismic booms. In Morocco's Erg Chebi, the sound resembles a didgeridoo. In Chile's Atacama, it's closer to a cello's mournful note. The sheer volume can be startling. Recordings from the Boom Dune have registered at 105 decibels, louder than a power lawnmower. What's fascinating is how cultures have interpreted these sounds throughout history. Marco Polo wrote of hearing spirit drums in the Gobi Desert, while Silk Road traders spread tales of demon choirs. Modern physics may have demystified the mechanism, but the experience remains profoundly uncanny. Standing atop a singing dune, feeling the vibrations shudder through your bones while the air hums around you, it's easy to understand why ancient peoples heard something otherworldly in the noise. The desert, as always, blurs the line between the explainable and the magical, reminding us that even in an age of satellites and sensors, some wonders still resonate beyond the edges of understanding. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek historian Herodotus recorded a chilling account of imperial hubris and nature's wrath. The Persian king Cambyses Roman II, son of Cyrus the Great, sent 50,000 soldiers marching across Egypt's western desert to punish the oracle of Ammon at Siwa Oasis for refusing to legitimize his rule. But according to Herodotus, the army never arrived. A monstrous sandstorm roared to life, swallowing the entire force in one vengeful gulp. For centuries, scholars dismissed the story as exaggeration until the desert began coughing up bones. In the early 1990s, archaeologists working near the modern town of El Khaga uncovered something startling beneath the shifting dunes. Human remains, Persian-style arrowheads, and fragments of bronze armor scattered across an area the size of a battlefield. The artifacts dated squarely to Cambyses' reign around 525 BCE. More discoveries followed, a silver dagger here, a corroded helmet there, each find adding weight to Herodotus's tale. Then came the real shocker, geological surveys revealed evidence of a cataclysmic sandstorm in the region, one capable of burying an army alive. The storm's signature lay in the sediment layers, a thick band of abnormally compacted sand, as if some great force had pressed it down in an instant. But skeptics aren't convinced. Some argue the scattered artifacts could belong to smaller, unrelated skirmishes. Others point out that Herodotus, while invaluable, wasn't above embellishment. The lack of mass graves or orderly formations suggests these soldiers didn't perish together in a single event. Instead, they might have succumbed to thirst or ambushes, their remains scattered over time by scavengers and wind. There's also the puzzling absence of personal effects, no sign of the water vessels or supply carts an army that size would have carried. One theory bridges myth and reality. The storm described by Herodotus might not have been meteorological at all, but military. Ancient Egyptian texts hint at guerrilla tactics used by desert tribes, including fake retreats that lured enemies into trap-filled wadis. Could Cambyses' army have been ambushed and slaughtered, their demise later romanticized as a battle against the elements? The desert, after all, is a master of illusions, turning mirages into lakes and whispers into legends. Whether fact or fable, the Lost Army's story endures because it speaks to something primal, the terror of being erased, a force so vast vanished without a trace. The Western Desert keeps its secrets close, revealing just enough to tantalize, a ribcage protruding from the sand, a glint of metal in the sun before the wind sweeps the evidence away again. Every artifact is a breadcrumb, leading us deeper into a mystery that may never be fully solved, and perhaps that's the point. Some stories are meant to linger in the realm of the unproven, their power lying not in resolution but in the endless chase for truth. In the heart of Mauritania's vast Sahara, a colossal, otherworldly formation stares up at the sky, a perfect bullseye of concentric rings stretching 30 miles wide. The Richat structure, known as the Eye of Africa, is so enormous it's visible from space, earning its place as a guiding landmark for astronauts orbiting Earth. For decades, this geological marvel fueled wild speculation. Was this the lost city of Atlantis, Plato's sunken kingdom described with rings of water and earth? The theory wasn't entirely baseless. Plato's account placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, now the Strait of Gibraltar, and the Richat's uncanny circular symmetry matched his descriptions eerily well. But the truth behind this desert enigma is even more fascinating than fiction. Geologists now know the Eye of Africa isn't the ruins of an ancient civilization, but the scar of a monumental natural collapse. Around 100 million years ago, tectonic forces pushed a dome of molten rock upward, warping layers of sandstone, limestone, and igneous rock into a giant blister. Over eons, erosion peeled back the dome's top like an onion, revealing its rings. Each band tells a story. The lighter layers are resistant quartzite, while the darker valleys are softer rock, worn away by wind and water. The structure's center, once the dome's highest point, now sits hundreds of feet lower than its outer rings, a testament to time's relentless grind. What makes the Richat so compelling isn't just its scale, but how it reshapes our understanding of the Sahara's past. Fossilized remnants of crocodiles, fish, and even ancient forests found nearby prove this was once a lush, water-rich landscape. The structure itself may have acted as a natural basin, collecting rainfall that sustained life in an otherwise harsh environment. Today, its barren beauty hides clues for planetary scientists too. The Richat's eroded layers resemble features seen on Mars, offering a terrestrial analog for studying the red planet's geological history. Yet the Atlantis theory refuses to die completely. Some researchers note that the Richat's layout mirrors Plato's descriptions of Atlantis's concentric rings more closely than any other known site. They point to scattered stone artifacts and ancient fire pits around the structure, suggesting human activity, though nothing matching a lost metropolis. Whether myth or natural wonder, the Eye of Africa remains a paradox, a place where science and legend collide, leaving us to wonder how many other secrets the desert still guards beneath its shifting sands. Beneath the endless dunes of North Africa's deserts, a different kind of relic lies half buried in the sand, not ancient temples or lost cities, but the rusted skeletons of World War II tanks, trucks, and fighter planes. These are the ghosts of the Desert War, a brutal campaign fought between Allied forces and Rommel's Africa Corps across Libya, Egypt, and Tunisia. The desert, with its dry air and shifting sands, became an unlikely preservationist, swallowing entire battlefields whole. Today, explorers stumble upon these metal carcasses in surreal states of decay. A British Crusader tank with its turret still trained on some long-vanished enemy, an Italian Fiat fighter plane resting on its belly as if it merely ran out of fuel mid-flight. The sand hasn't just preserved them, it's frozen them in haunting tableau of abandonment. What's astonishing isn't just the sheer volume of these wrecks, but the stories they carry. Take Diana, a German Panzer Roman III discovered in western Egypt in 2012. When researchers brushed away the sand, they found its original paint still vivid, unit markings crisp, and even the crew's personal effects intact: a rusted canteen, a diary filled with cramped handwriting. The desert's aridity acts like a time capsule, slowing corrosion to a crawl. Unlike European battlefields where rain and vegetation devoured war debris, North Africa's sands kept these machines eerily pristine. Some wrecks still bear the scars of their final moments: shrapnel holes in a Jeep's door, a tank's tread snapped mid-turn as if the crew had fled in haste. But with preservation comes ethical dilemmas. Every year, collectors and hobbyists haul away these relics, sometimes entire aircraft, to private museums or restoration projects. Local governments struggle to police the trade, torn between protecting history and acknowledging the logistical nightmare of safeguarding remote battlefields. The debate intensifies around human remains. In 2019, a British expedition found the skeletal hand of a gunner still clutching his machine gun near El Alamein, sparking outcry over whether such sites should be left undisturbed as makeshift war graves. UNESCO has pushed to designate parts of the Western Desert as protected zones, but enforcement in such vast, lawless terrain is nearly impossible. For historians, these wrecks are invaluable puzzles. A single abandoned truck can reveal troop movements, supply failures, or even climate conditions. Tire tracks preserved in hardened mud near Tobruk helped researchers reconstruct Rommel's infamous flanking maneuvers during Operation Crusader. Others tell quieter, more human tales, like the American M3 half-track found with a deck of playing cards scattered inside, or the German Messerschmitt whose cockpit revealed a faded photo of the pilot's sweetheart tucked behind the instrument panel. The desert doesn't discriminate. It preserves the grand and the mundane with equal indifference. Perhaps the most poignant discovery came in the Libyan desert near Kafra. A cluster of burned-out trucks arranged in a perfect circle, their doors flung open. Archaeology teams determined this was a last stand by Free French forces, who formed a defensive ring against a surprise attack in 1942. The positions of the bodies where sand hadn't claimed them suggested some soldiers fought to the last bullet. These aren't just metal husks, they're frozen echoes of desperation and courage, waiting for someone to listen. As climate change exposes more of these relics, the question remains: how do we honor them, leave them as stark memorials in the sand, or gather them into museums where their stories can be told? The desert, as always, keeps its counsel. It took these battlefields into its embrace 8 decades ago, and in its silence, it offers no easy answers, only the wind-scoured bones of history whispering across the dunes. Stretching across Namibia's Namib Desert like a polka-dotted fever dream, hundreds of thousands of barren circles pockmark the landscape, perfectly round, eerily uniform patches where nothing grows. Known as fairy circles, these enigmatic formations range from 10 to 65 feet wide. their edges lined with tall grass as if drawn by some meticulous cosmic hand. But Namibia isn't the only place where these botanical riddles appear. Over in Western Australia, eerily similar circles dot the arid Pilbara region, though separated by an ocean and 10,000 years of evolutionary divergence. How can two deserts so distant and ecologically distinct produce nearly identical patterns? The answer might lie beneath the surface or in the stars, depending on whom you ask. Scientists have waged a decades-long battle over fairy circles, with theories as varied as the patterns themselves. One camp points to sand termites, whose underground colonies might nibble away at roots, creating sterile patches to trap moisture. In Namibia, researchers have found termite activity beneath some circles, but Australia's versions show no such link, leaving the theory gasping for air. Then there's the gas leak hypothesis, volatile hydrocarbons seeping from deep underground, poisoning the soil. It's a tantalizing idea, except no one's found consistent gas traces in either location. The most widely accepted explanation, plant competition. In brutal desert conditions, grasses might self-organize, their roots battling for scarce water. The strongest choke out weaker plants, leaving circular dead zones where resources are too scarce to sustain life. Computer models support this, showing how natural competition can create strikingly regular patterns. Yet even this doesn't explain why the circles appear only in these two deserts, or why their spacing is so unnervingly precise. For indigenous communities, though, fairy circles need no scientific justification. Namibia's Himba people call them the footprints of the gods, sacred marks left by ancestral spirits dancing across the land. Some Aboriginal groups in Australia share eerily similar lore, speaking of circular imprints made by creator beings during the dreamtime. These traditions hint at something deeper, a cultural recognition of the desert's uncanny ability to orchestrate order from chaos. Whether termites, gases, or plants are the architects, the result is the same. A landscape that feels almost designed, a reminder that even in the harshest places, nature follows rules we're only beginning to decode. What makes fairy circles so mesmerizing isn't just their mystery, but their defiance of scale. From ground level, they're curious oddities. From the air, they transform into vast, pulsating mosaics, as if the desert itself is breathing. They challenge our instinct to categorize, sitting somewhere between art and ecology, myth and microbiology. And perhaps that's the point. Some secrets aren't meant to be solved, just witnessed humbly, as the earth whispers yet another riddle we may never fully unravel. Deep beneath the earth in Mexico's Chihuahuan desert lies a place so surreal, it feels ripped from the pages of a fantasy novel, the Cave of the Crystals. Hidden inside the Nazca mine, this subterranean chamber is studded with gargantuan selenite crystals, some reaching over 30 feet long and weighing 55 tons. The beams of translucent gypsum glow like frozen moonlight, their razor-sharp edges jutting from the floor and ceiling in chaotic beauty. Though technically not a desert cave, Nazca's conditions mirror the harshest arid wastelands. Temperatures soar to 136 degrees Fahrenheit with near 100% humidity, creating an environment so extreme that even seasoned explorers can survive only minutes without protective gear. This is a realm where the very air feels like molten glass, and the crystals grow at a pace so slow, over 500,000 years, that time itself seems to stand still. The cave's discovery in 2000 was pure accident. Miners drilling through the Nazca silver deposit broke into a void and stumbled upon these otherworldly formations. Scientists quickly realized they were standing in a geological pressure cooker. For millennia, mineral-rich groundwater simmered beneath the mountain, superheated by magma below. When the caves flooded, the water's saturation with calcium sulfate allowed crystals to form on every surface, some growing less than the width of a human hair each century. What makes Nazca truly unique is its delicate equilibrium. The crystals survive only because the chamber remained flooded for eons, insulated by the surrounding rock. Once exposed to air, they risk deterioration, their surfaces clouding like aging diamonds. But beyond the science, Nazca's crystals tap into something deeper, the human instinct to see the supernatural in nature's extremes. Desert cultures worldwide have long woven myths around crystalline formations, attributing them to gods, spirits, or celestial events. The Apache tell of a great shining mountain where the spirits of ancestors dwell, while Australian Aboriginal lore speaks of crystal caves as dreaming tracks where creation energy lingers. Even the Bible's book of Ezekiel describes a great crystal stretching beneath God's throne. Nazca's crystals, with their alien grandeur, fit seamlessly into this tradition. Local miners whisper that the cave is cursed, that those who disturb the crystals invite misfortune. Some claim to hear ghostly chimes when the selenite shifts, a phenomenon acoustics experts attribute to the crystal's resonant frequencies, but that feels undeniably eerie in the cave's suffocating silence. What these stories reveal is a universal truth. When faced with nature's unimaginable scale, humans reach for the mystical. The cave of the crystals, like desert mirages or singing dunes, exists at the edge of comprehension. Its very formation defies intuition. How could something so delicate thrive in conditions so hostile? Perhaps that's why caves like Nazca inspire such reverence. They're cathedrals of geology, proof that beauty can blossom even in the most unlivable places. And as the mind's pumps keep the water at bay, preserving this fragile wonder for study, we're left with a humbling thought. Some of Earth's most breathtaking secrets aren't just hidden in the desert's vastness, but beneath it, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. What if the world's largest desert wasn't always a desert at all? Beneath the Sahara's endless dunes, radar imaging has uncovered the ghostly traces of a lost world, a sprawling network of rivers that once turned this wasteland into a lush corridor of life. The most astonishing of these vanished waterways is the Tamanrasset, a colossal river system that rivaled the Amazon in scale. Stretching nearly 3,000 miles, it flowed from the Atlas Mountains all the way to the Atlantic, carving valleys now buried under 1,000 feet of sand. Its basin, wider than the Nile's, once supported forests, wetlands, and even hippopotamuses, yes, hippos, where today there's nothing but scorching emptiness. Evidence of this green Sahara isn't just hidden beneath the surface, it's painted on the walls of ancient caves. In the Tassili Ennaja Plateau of Algeria, Neolithic artists left vibrant murals of swimming giraffes, elephants lumbering through reed beds, and yes, those hippos. Creatures that couldn't survive a single day in the modern Sahara. These artworks, dating back 9,000 years, aren't mere fantasies. They're snapshots of a lost ecosystem, proof that the people who lived here waded through marshes and fished in rivers that have long since evaporated. The hippopotamus depictions are especially telling. These water-dependent giants wouldn't have ventured far from the Tamanrasset's banks, meaning the artists must have seen them thriving right where dunes now stretch to the horizon. But how could a river so mighty simply disappear? The answer lies in Earth's wobble. Over tens of thousands of years, shifts in the planet's tilt alter monsoon patterns. Around 5,000 years ago, this wobble pushed rain bands southward, starving the Sahara of moisture. As the land dried, the Tamanrasset shrank from a roaring thoroughfare to a trickle, then to dust. Satellite radar now maps its corpse, buried channels detectable only by subtle dips in the bedrock, like the wrinkles of a forgotten giant. Along these phantom banks, archaeologists have found stone tools and pottery, traces of settlements that clung to the river's dying embrace. The most haunting relics, though, are the playas, ancient lake beds that pockmark the desert. These dusty depressions were once oases where the Tamanrasset's tributaries pooled into watering holes. Today, they're salt flats, their beds crusted white like bones in the sun. Yet even here, life left its mark. Fossilized pollen reveals these playas were fringed with acacia trees and wild grasses, while sediment cores contain layers of freshwater mollusks. tiny time capsules of a wetter world. The Sahara didn't just lose a river, it lost an entire biome, its richness swallowed by the sands. What does this mean for us today? The Tamanrasset's fate is a stark lesson in climate volatility. Its disappearance wasn't a slow fade but a rapid collapse unfolding within centuries, a blink in geological time. As modern droughts intensify, the Sahara's past whispers a warning. Civilizations rise and fall with the water they depend on. And somewhere beneath those dunes, the river's ghost still flows, a reminder that even the mightiest landscapes are never as permanent as they seem. When most people think of mysterious aircraft disappearances, the Bermuda Triangle dominates the conversation. But deserts with their vast, featureless landscapes and extreme conditions have quietly claimed just as many planes under circumstances just as baffling. Take the case of Flight 19, a group of 5 U.S. Navy bombers that vanished over the Sonoran Desert in 1945. The squadron's final radio transmissions remain bone-chilling, pilots reporting disorientation, compasses spinning wildly, and an unshakable sense that the desert below didn't look right. Despite one of the largest search operations in history, no wreckage was ever found, not a single bolt or shred of fabric. What makes desert disappearances so unnerving is how thoroughly the environment erases evidence. Unlike ocean vanishings, where wreckage might eventually wash ashore, the desert swallows plains whole. Shifting sands bury debris within days, while 100-degree heat warps metal and sun bleaches paint into camouflage. But there's something else at work here, 2 unique atmospheric quirks that turn arid zones into navigational nightmares. Magnetic anomalies caused by mineral-rich desert bedrock can scramble compasses and altimeters. Thermal layers create superior mirages, bending light to make distant mountains appear where none exist or hiding runways behind false horizons. Even experienced pilots have been fooled, banking toward illusory landmarks only to fly deeper into emptiness. Lesser-known cases deepen the mystery. In 1958, a C-118 military transport vanished over Egypt's western desert during a routine flight. Search teams scoured the predicted crash zone for months, finding nothing. Then, decades later, Bedouin nomads stumbled upon the wreck nearly 200 miles off course, as if the plane had been following a non-existent beacon. Similar oddities plague the Mojave, where private planes have disappeared mere minutes from major airports. In one eerie incident, a pilot's last words were, "I'm lining up for final approach," though radar showed him 40 miles from the nearest runway. Could these vanishings share a common thread? Some researchers point to desert fata morganas, complex mirages that stack and invert landscapes like funhouse mirrors. Others speculate about localized geomagnetic disturbances, natural versions of the electronic fog, reported in Bermuda Triangle cases, but perhaps the most unsettling theory involves the deserts themselves. Their sheer scale plays tricks on human perception, distorting distance and direction until even the most advanced navigation systems falter. In these vast, silent spaces, a single wrong turn can become a one-way journey. The desert guards its secrets fiercely. Unlike ocean floors where sonar can map wrecks, dunes and canyons defy even satellite imaging, every undiscovered crash site whispers the same unnerving truth. In the wrong conditions, the sky's most reliable rules can fail without warning. And somewhere beneath those endless sands, the answers and the lost wait for the shifting winds to reveal them. From the Lost City of Iram to the singing dunes of the Sahara, from the frozen whales of Egypt to the phantom rivers beneath the sands, these 25 secrets stand as undeniable proof deserts are Earth's greatest storytellers. They don't just whisper history, they shout it in the language of sun-bleached bones, geometric ruins, and relics that defy time itself. Think about it. Where else can you stumble upon a pharaoh's forgotten pyramid one day and a meteorite's golden glass the next? The desert isn't barren, it's a vault. Every dune is a page, every canyon a chapter, waiting for the wind to turn it. these mysteries force us to rethink what we know and admit how much we don't. How could a civilization as sophisticated as the Nabateans vanish, leaving only Petra's echoing corridors? Why would ancient peoples carve constellations into stone where no stars are visible for miles? And what primordial cataclysm fused an entire Libyan wasteland into shimmering glass? The answers aren't just buried in sand, they're woven into the fabric of human curiosity. So, which secret haunted you? Was it the chilling fate of Cambyses's army swallowed by a sandstorm? The eerie precision of Saudi Arabia's desert kites stretching like ancient runes across the land? Or perhaps the cave of crystals where geology dances on the edge of magic? Drop your answer below. We're dying to know which mystery kept you up at night. And stay tuned, because our next adventure will plunge into the polar enigmas, where ice guards its secrets just as fiercely as sand. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the Earth's greatest stories are always hiding in plain sight. You just have to know where to look.